really love the feedback right in the intro. The creaks and groans on my world-class microphone. Cost me no more than like $30. Now, I've been around the Echosphere for a little bit, and I'm not the most knowledgeable in the space by far. I know enough to be dangerous though. So, I'll share what I know about this Pulsechain for free, because I really think people need to hear this. It's not bad, it's just a simple analysis about Pulsechain and Hex. I'll get started. So you can see here from the brief, man, I gotta get this sorted out, not quite set up correctly at the moment. Now, if you can see here, the bridge from PLS burn. Now, awesome site, very useful in this time. Before I get into that, I'd just like to point out, as you can see, at about 23%, the total volume was less. Pulse was PLS on Pulsechain mainnet, still can't believe it, 0.0001 at 32%. Mind you, the amount was less, it's currently about 60 million. The percentage done was 32%. The PLS Pulse price for mainnet was 0.0000177. So as it, we can see a pattern, a trend, trend is your friend, so they'll have you believe. Now, going back, before we can move forward, we probably should try to understand where this all came from. Now, if you think about it, we will go back to the all-time highs. That's probably a good start. Now, I know it's missing a lot. The inception, the insane FUD, the insane censorship, the gatekeeping, which continues to this day. This channel is at risk. Out of the woodworks, YouTube's decided to start issuing my channel with certain strikes. I'm not sure why. So, we shall see what games they want to play. Now, as we see with this, maybe I'll get this out of the way. It's not about me, it's about a beloved Pulsechain, beloved Hex, now PLSX. Yeah, I think that looks alright. Now, going back to when the price was high, Hex on Ethereum, then the Pulsechain SAC came along. I almost skipped that for some reason in my notes. We then also had the PulseX SAC. Now, I know that's jumping just a little bit, but it's worth noting. What's happening, TinTop? Just going over some, and a couple others in the chat, just a surprise. Just going over some brief notes. Now, where was I? Pulsechain SAC. Yep, we all know what happened after the price was high. PulseX SAC was a surprise. Price was a little bit lower from memory. Or was it higher? I have to go back and check on chain anyway. And then there was after those particular sacrifices, I'm not sure what order, but there was the donation for the 27 million to a particular foundation. I'm not sure what happened with that in terms of is that foundation still around, or did it branch off? I can't remember. I just have the donation here for 27 million. That's basically all we need to know, which is amazing, don't get me wrong. The way I present this. Now, then there was other non-Richard SACs, not like as in non-Richard Hart, that sounded funny, non-Richard Hart sacrifice stages, different products being talked about released. I think the first one that comes to mind after the Pulsechain one was the liquid loans. Again, not talking down on any of these products, just pointing out from memory my notes. And we then saw, It was longer than expected, well, longer than I expected. However, I did not have any expectations. And not going into what happened geopolitically in the whole crypto space, the numerous times Richard Hart was right, the price did go down on Ethereum Hex. EHEX as we now know it. And we then also saw the launch was different also because I think, I'm pretty sure I'm right, the ETH 2.0 upgrade, which brought about, copies on Ethereum Proof of Work and Ethereum Affair from memory. Now, because the fork was different, because, the initial fork was off of Ethereum, oh my god, I can't even think of this, Ethereum 1, I guess you call it, and then Ethereum 2.0. Proof of stake? Oh my god. Yeah, anyway. You guys know what I'm talking about. See? Not the smartest, but not enough. Now, then we saw the copies. So this is more like recently happened within the last week, although it feels like an eternity. We then had the bridges, which allowed Ethereum to bridge into Pulsechain mainnet. We then had the gas was higher than expected relative to testnet v4, that is, like, because we hadn't actually seen, like, no one saw mainnet in its final production live. So the initial, I had this part in. So the initial transactions that I saw were about sub 1 pulse. They did get a little bit more expensive relatively quickly. I think I saw, 1.1, things like that, 1.5. And then came the bridge. Now, we saw, it's a bit slower than anticipated. The bridge itself doesn't function in the same way that Pulsechain does, in terms of if you send, from your own, whatever, it's relatively quick, efficient, but if you send through the bridge, I haven't actually tried just yet, it's not as efficient. So I've seen. Now, moving on, the next part, I'm not sure if I cover, I'll just go over my notes. Basically, I'll leave this image up here, just bear with me. We basically have a what could happen, what was your plan with all of this? How was it rolled out? What were you thinking about doing? Were you a large holder? Were you a smaller holder? How could that affect you? Did you hear about it early? Are you completely new to this particular new L1 fork of Ethereum, the entire state, never been done before? Or are you like an OG from before Hex's inception? I guess that's the range. Maybe you were early on in Bitcoin itself, who knows? But you had a few different options. So if a large player, if you were a large player within the Richard Hart ecosphere, you could have made many moves. So you could have, for example, gone the first route that I've noted here. You could have burnt to be minted later, treating the T-share as king, through Hex. So you could have basically, locked away, burned your Hex, and purely, if you're lucky enough, for the time to mint to occur after the fork took place, you now get a copy. Probably the most simple maneuver to do, had you had all your particular net wealth, I don't know, all your crypto, all your Hex, locked away, burnt, and you're yet to mint it. Maybe that turned out alright, we saw price pullback, things like that, but I won't go too deep into that. Now, the next move, very similar. If you're a large player, basic LP providing on Ethereum, maybe that was a non-pulse play, so I haven't checked the pools. What I mean by that is maybe you provided liquidity on a DEX like Uniswap on Ethereum, I'm talking about now, and or a similar decentralized exchange which allows you to do this. Maybe you did that and you just decided to keep earning fees that way, and you didn't pool your liquidity, and you basically just held that one position. That is also an option that could have taken place. Now, I haven't looked on chain for that, but it's probably a little bit more than just purely locking away your hags. Now, the next thing, now here it gets a little bit more interesting. Maybe large amounts of stables were traded, so maybe people pooled the liquidity, maybe they sold Hex near the all-time highs and move them to stables, which was a very lucky move if you did that. Maybe you did it later on. However you may have done it. Maybe you were a holder. Maybe you had burnt your Hex and you're waiting to mint it. Maybe also you were providing liquidity on Ethereum, and then maybe also you were holding large amounts of stables. With the assumption that once the stable that you held on Ethereum, not so much that it becomes valuable on the Pulsechain side, but maybe you could ratio trade some of that because of some confusion by people new to the system, I'm not sure, or for whatever reason people happen to gamble. Maybe that was what you did. But another motive for this, or in my theory, would have been to move large amounts of stables over the bridge, with the assumption the bridge would be as fast as it was in testnet, to be able to take advantage of ratio trading, because most people were aware, well, I hope they were aware, that value wouldn't be available from its inception, that after the fork took place, after it went live, the tokens would appear in one's wallet after you entered in the settings, and then hang on. Okay, where was I? I hope as you're listening to this, you're drifting off into a nice sleep, because that's the energy level I currently have. Now, where was I? Alright, so from memory, okay, maybe you were holding stables for whatever reason, and you're looking to take advantage of ratio trading, because ratio trading was in the cards as per almost all of the test nets from memory, and maybe you're thinking you could put in some stables, knowing that, or betting that they would be stable on the Pulsechain, and maybe decide what you think is a good buy, because that would be kind of difficult, I would have thought. Because anyway, now, taking into account those 3 points, there's more than 3 points there, but I have 3 points here. The bridge was slower and not as fast as Pulsechain itself, so this may limit that particular play that I just mentioned, the one with moving your assets in and out. When you move your assets in and out, and for instance, where am I? When you move your assets in and out, you were assuming or hoping, betting on going by the guidance from previous testnets possibly, but with a slower bridge, it's not as fast. I think I said that's what I was up to, and it will reduce this ability to make this play in the way that one may have thought it would have played out. Now, when I say reduce its effects, what does that mean? Now, if you were a new player trying to enter in, you're most likely feeling like you're last of the party because you are. People sacrificed, they were in early, they were able to ratio trade, they were able to, I'm not sure how fast the bridge was early on, but they were definitely able to ratio trade. They definitely held more tokens, they definitely got a better rate initially. However, this has changed because there was some instances where you could have got a decent rate had you have been able to move your capital from Ethereum into Pulsechain. However, due to the bridge factor, as I said, it reduced this effect. So some people may have got lucky, some people may have got some bargains on the ratio trading, and some people are maybe still waiting. That is pretty much what's happening now. That's the current state, I guess you'd call it. Now, as well as the things I mentioned, people are trying to remove from Pulsechain to ETH has also been slowed. Now that doesn't appear, to be talked about as much, because why would you want to, remove your Pulsechain assets back to ETH? Maybe people are trying to cash out early, I don't know. But with the bridge slower, it's both difficult to get economic energy in and take it out. It's reduced, has a reduced effect. Now, I know everyone already knows this, but if you're new to the system, this is a sort of a very basic breakdown. What next? So we've got current state. So PulseX is, to me, PulseX is king in terms of what you can actually get. Now, I have seen some large prices. I think that's coming from PulseX, but what I actually mean, if we go over to the screen now, is this here. So for instance, you can see I've dumped all my shit and I'm holding zero. No, I'm kidding. Or am I? No. So you can, previously, earlier on in the day, I think it was 1 for 1. So you should be familiar with this PulseX exchange, decentralized exchange, whereby you can see 1 hex from Pulsechain is currently buying 0.62. Now, what does that mean? Basically, it's not a parity. So it's, this hurts my mind. And if you look at it like foreign currency, it'll make more sense. Yeah. Here's another example. So if you have 1 DAI stable coin, $1 worth of that will get you 37 hex tokens from Ethereum. Now, we see here. And what I mean by if you use PulseX to swap, I'm assuming you've come this far and you have been researching, operational security, including, against the wrench attack, simple, stupid things like that, all the way to advanced, I don't know what you call it, having compromised systems where you're actually actively getting key logged and someone can figure out that, you've written your seed phrases down somewhere or something. I don't know, something silly. But the point I'm trying to get here is, after you've done all that, because you've come this far in crypto, you've realized that not your keys, not your coins, centralized exchanges are basically a necessity at this point. They don't protect your anonymity. They don't protect your identity. If they get hacked, you get compromised, which is bad because that could lead to things from all the way to a script kiddie to a nation state trying to get into your system. Now, that's probably sounds pretty nasty, but it happens. It happens. Now, going back to what I was talking about, the PulseX. It's king in terms of what you can actually get. Now I could be wrong, but if I was to make a trade on PulseX, I would be going to PulseX on Pulsechain and making sure you're not on any test nets. I laugh because I saw someone trying to get testnet tokens to mainnet, and I don't understand how that was a thought. Now, on mainnet, on Pulsechain, you have one DAI. Currently, you can exchange it for one USDC. And now these are both bridged in from Ethereum, and you can see the economic value. It actually helped give value to every other token in the system. Now, we also see there was Hex, wrapped Ethereum, I believe, yes. And we can see here, you could ask yourself, what is one? You can ask yourself, what is one wrapped Ethereum worth in Pulsechain, which you could put up onto the bridge and extract into Ethereum if the bridges were operating faster? How could you do it like right now? That is how. And that literally just jumped. But yeah, so I'm assuming logically when there's pools. Now this is the part I'm not so sure. If there is pools on the Ethereum side, it may not matter. But if there needs to be pools on the Pulsechain side for it to exist. Also, with the arbitrage opportunities, I think you'll see, I would imagine you would see in a logical system that wrapped Ethereum would be parity to the Ethereum on Ethereum. The same with the stables. You would imagine, because at some point, if you wanted to, you could extract, one USDC, one DAI. You could extract two Ethereum. You'd imagine that they would keep parity, not the copies, but those ones. And then if you go back to Hex itself, that is a different beast, because this is what I'll cover now. Well, actually, it's no, I've got my notes here. Now the bridge is pending. 100% keeps growing. So people are, maybe they're not reading this message at the bottom, which shows you, if I jump over to my screen. So, how can I highlight that? If, for instance, I'll highlight it there. If, for instance, you read the whole entire screen, see, it's jumped a million since I started this stream. So, but so please wait for the bridge to process around 90% of already deposited transactions before depositing assets yourself. Maybe there's a backlog, and maybe if you were to deposit now, it might take longer than initially than it would if you deposited at, say, 90%. There was some testing that took place, requested by Richard Hart earlier on in the day here in Australia. And I think there was a transaction I did which surprised me, because the amount of pulse that it used for the transaction it jumped significantly, and it took a lot longer than expected. So I left it, went out, basically came back. I think it was it completed about 40 minutes by the time I got home, and I left it running. And I went out for a little bit. I would say a good, might have been an hour. It was easily an hour, possibly pushing 2 hours by the time I got home. And so maybe it took, an hour, thereabouts. So that was a pretty long transaction relative to, what it was. It was almost instant. And this was just a send. So my thoughts are, well, just imagine if that was the time frame, and it's taking, say, an hour to bridge in and out per transaction, and how many transactions are the 61 million made up of? You know, is it one person dumping 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, and there's 61 of them sitting there? So that's like 61 hours per, like, you know, if it was queued up one after the other. Or is it people like going in with like smaller amounts, and there's a lot more transactions than say 61? I'm not sure. I haven't checked on chain yet. So that is something that I'm noticing. In saying that, with a slow bridge, it is also limiting larger players to hurt the price or pump it. I should have said pump it first, because, you know, good before the bad. But if you were a large player, and you had intentions to, you know, move or remove, it would stop your ability to be able to do this. So maybe you had intentions to, as I said before, jump in. Maybe you didn't. Maybe wanted to ratio trade. Maybe you wanted to, you know, purchase when it was lower. Maybe, like as I mentioned before, that wasn't as easy to perform. It's almost as if you were really early, maybe you got super, not benefited, but if you had a plan and you stuck to the plan and you did it straight away, you might have benefited more than if you had hesitated and decided at the last minute, you know, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. Anyway, we see, well, and you know, say you wanted to buy a lot of Pulse really early on and now you can't. If you've bridged in, by the time you're ready to purchase Pulse, maybe it's going to pump it even higher. And the same, if you were going to sell, maybe it'll delay your selling, but it'll also, you know, whenever you sell, the price goes down, you know. But with a longer wait, maybe it might make people wait a little bit more. I'm not sure. But anyway, I've heard talk of like multiple bridges, maybe. But if I would not use personally any other bridge other than the official one. That's just me. I'm not going to be touching any other, you know, like, I didn't sacrifice for anything else other than the Richard Hart ones. Call me whatever that is, old school. But I might not ever need, other than the incentive token and Ethereum, to mess with other cryptocurrencies for the longest time, you know. Or maybe the airdrop ones, because, you know, nothing against them. No, that's not what I noticed, but I did hear talk of like maybe, I saw a tweet saying maybe you have multiple bridges. In terms of like the official bridge, maybe like you open up multiple bridges. It was just a tweet I saw, but I'm thinking maybe, but currently it keeps growing and the number keeps going down. So maybe eventually one day this will finish. But if people just infinitely pour money into this system, we might see going back to this this image, where I assume that as the bar increases, the price increases, because the majority of the trades I imagine would be purchases, because people, like I said, are waiting to get in. Because they're waiting to get in, you know, they want to get in. I don't think they're rushing to get out, because by the time the bar's finished, if you purchase from the beginning of the bar to the end of the bar, maybe the price will be high, is what I'm assuming will happen here. Unless there's someone in there who's dumping already, whatever, that's not what this stream's about. But if someone is doing that, then maybe the price will be the same. But so far we've seen what? A 9% increase, and the price is almost doubled. So, you know, then if we go to, this is how personally I like to check Pulse. Actually have Pulse in this account. Okay. So this is how I like to check, assuming the stables are stable. Well, you could just look at the graph itself, but you know, you can trade one Pulse for the value of stable DAI bridged in from Ethereum and then tradable on Pulsechain, as we can see, which is, you know, tradable 1 for 1, so it's backed by DAI, via the bridge, 1 for 1. So the price is 0.0013. So it's come down a little bit. So that graph is no longer correct. It's got to jump around a lot, I imagine. And as it jumps down, possibly people are selling. I don't know. Could be the ratio being, messed with, well, not messed with, but it could be the ratio changing as well. That's also a possibility. But yeah, I thought I'd just include that because I thought, well, that's worth thinking about. Now, if you look at so then I mentioned in my notes, stables will basically settle. I think they will settle anyway. Because right now, what is that? So 1 USDC gets you 0.96. So if I went out and bought $9.60 worth of DAI, I could trade it for 10. So maybe people do that with larger figures, and they keep doing that until the price gets pushed up because people are buying all the DAI. Brings it back to equilibrium of about that 1-to-1. Well, I would imagine anyway. Hex parity was achieved. Now I'm curious how this will play out because here's where I'm not sure how other people feel about this in the community, because I've heard everything from it'll just stay 1-to-1. I've heard the theory, and this is all online. This is all public information. There's no confidential talks that I'm aware of. I've heard, I guess streams is the best place where this takes place. I've heard talk of moving how to get into Pulsechain, like the theoreticals, and whether people actually do this or not is yet to be actually seen. If you were to take a copy of Hex and you do nothing, it's liquid, and you get a copy on Pulsechain. Now, there's a few ways this could happen. Now, if it hits parity and you haven't done anything, and you bridge the Hex across into Pulsechain, once it gets through the bridge, once everything is settled, if it's still around parity, right, then, as I'm saying this, I've just thought of something else. If you're doing that, it's making Hex it's insane. It's insane. It's making Hex on Ethereum more scarce because it's locked away. And if you then pair it with the Pulsechain Hex and you lock that away, then you're going to be getting, as the say one moves higher, one and you get less of that one. Either way, you can redeem it 1-for-1 back on Ethereum, or you could hold it and burn it in Pulsechain if T shares are what you're chasing, because the assumption would be that's what you're chasing, unless you're looking to take profits. In that case, you'd be looking to do what is most profitable. Logically, that's what businesses do, So if you take the Hex from eHex, and it's not acting like a sell, because say for some reasons you think you should sell the Hex on Ethereum to get stables and bridge the stables in, and then make a liquidity pair with the stable and Hex on Pulsechain, which is oh my god, it's so confusing, which is redeemable for Hex on Ethereum. Then you would have a liquidity pool with, in that case, stable from Ethereum with the Hex redeemable 1-for-1, which I'm not sure if you can receive a incentive token for. Let's have a look. So you cannot at the moment. See, I'm surprised I'm actually surprised. Is there more? I'm surprised there's not incentive token for Hex and Hex. But I guess the incentive for pooling Hex and Hex is pretty juicy when you think about it that way. You wouldn't be getting an INC token. You'd be getting what would you be getting? You'd be getting locked up eHex paired with locked up PulseX hex, you know, and that takes it out of circulation, does it? If it goes into an LP pool, you know, there's less of it to buy. You can trade on the. It allows trading to take place on the system. Literally provides liquidity. So it's not really a negative. Then if it was going higher, you know, then you'd be deciding, well, okay, this one's dying and this one's growing. Then you'd be making a decision, well, which T shares am I going for, or you might be going for which one do I want to be holding more of, and if one's going high and one's going low, you know, then you might be thinking about that, which is more advanced. If it's staying at parity, what have you really got to lose in terms of moving it from one chain to another? Because I'm still curious. I'm less convinced now that there will be people creating many pools from Pulsechain on the Ethereum side. Again, it could be a multi-directional way of looking at it. But if you're bridging in Ethereum into Pulsechain, and you then have the Ethereum asset locked up with the Pulsechain asset in a liquidity pool, price is relatively stable. If that is the case, I can't see why you would then need to bridge over a Pulsechain asset into Ethereum when they're both stable. The only reason one might want to do that is if they could earn potentially fees paid out in paid out in Hex or Hex on the Ethereum chain. That would be enticing. I'm not sure. But again, would it be needed? You know, would anyone even use that as a trading pair? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a one-way, and people were just interested in moving all their Hex over to Pulsechain. Then the question is, does that effectively reduce the price? So I hate to talk about reducing the price on eHex, because that's the beloved Hex. But maybe I'm just stuck in my ways, and there's a new, better system in place, and it will perform better. Or is it that it will literally they maintain parity? Because no one wants to see cheap Hex on any chain. I haven't actually checked the Ethereum proof of work, but if you were to, so hopefully that made sense, because that was a lot of mumble jumble. Kind of makes sense in my mind. I'd have to go through, make some more detailed notes, but I think I'm hoping you understand what I'm saying in terms of creating liquidity pools, and whether or not Hex will be stable, whether or not there'll be a move from one Hex to another Hex, whether or not that's even not required, but you know, if simply put, if you were trying to not manipulate the price, but if you had a lot of Hex and you made big moves and you couldn't help but move the price, like, what would you want to do? Would you want to would you want to affect one chain or the other? Would you want to move one higher, one lower? I can see if there's no fiat on and off ramp on Pulsechain, then people would potentially want to take profits. And how would they take profits? I'd have to take profits off of Pulsechain and move it onto the chain of their choice that they can take extract value from. Now, if you were to sell say you wanted to sell Hex on Pulsechain because maybe that's made you the most gains, which it possibly could, but now you've also got Pulsechain itself to think about, PulseX to think about. You've got all the derivatives, you've got lots of things to think about. And it just depends. If you are a large player, then you would have the ability to move these things. So I guess it's whale games. So I guess what we're seeing is literally the creation of a hexagon playground. Like you're a Pulsechain, you're a hexagon, you're a Pulsexican, all the other Ians. But at the end of the day, when you analyze this, Pulsechain was built, for hexagons, and it's going to be the racetrack to allow Hex to do its things, do its thing. It's going to be able to get upgrades from Ethereum. People can enter and also play alongside with us. We come hexagon, we come in peace. This is built. It's been released. This is insane. Yeah, the bridge is slow, but once you're in, you're in. And then once you're out, you're out. It's a bit slow getting in and out. Well, I don't know, like maybe there's like a really cool place you want to go to and you got to wait a long time to get in there. But then once you're in there, you can stay in there for as long as you want. And then, okay, it's a long drive to get there and a long drive to get home. That's one way you could look at it, But whether or not people see it that way, I'm not sure. Now, that was a lot more than I intended to cover. Sorry if you're watching this. Well, sorry if you're catching the replay. Not sure too many people will. 18 Gs. Wow. Goddamn. Finbear, Hex Hall. What is happening? Sorry. I'm trying to... oh, sorry. I'm not sure anyone's live. Anyway. Yeah, so I was trying to explain some stuff and go through. I've got my setup. It's a bit funny at the moment, so can't see the comments. But where was I? Now, see, this is these notes could be actually wrong now, because if parity is achieved in the short term, then ETH Hex could go to zero in theory, but that theory relies on the not zero, very close to zero. That theory is with the that's the extreme assumption. The extreme assumption of Hex Ethereum going to zero, very close to zero, like maybe it's opening low price, would require constant non-stop dumping of Ethereum on Hex with no purchasing at all. Is that likely? And then say they're currently at parity. What does that mean? So you would dump the EHEX, make the price lower. If you've got pools on the Ethereum side and the price of EHEX is going lower, you would then in theory get more. See, this is what I'm saying. So, okay. Sorry guys, I've done a very complex thing which shouldn't have been complex. Okay, so you know how an LP pool works, right? So if you have an LP pool on Ethereum, I'm literally making this up as I'm going along because I'm having these thoughts, which is why I do these streams. Sometimes I think of some better stuff, if you have a pool on Ethereum, and it's EHEX, which is Ethereum Hex, which is like normal Hex on that chain, and PHEX. So say you bridged out some PHEX and put a pool on Ethereum. If you thought that Ethereum was going to very close to zero, for whatever reason, again, this is the extreme argument, then you would see in a liquidity pool that you hold, and again, I'm talking about people that can affect the market, not intentionally, but just due to their sheer size, then you would see the price of EHEX going down And hang on, yeah, sorry. So if you see the price of EHEX going down, then you would see, all your liquidity pool would be going over, and you'd be holding all the stuff that's really cheap, and you'd be holding no PHEX on the ETH side. So would that be something that would be someone would want to happen? See, as I go through, sometimes I change. I don't think that would be the best move, unless you then had it at extreme lows and then it increases. It's almost like an infinite loop, no matter which way you look at it. And then you'll be chasing T shares, and I just can't see Ethereum Hex going to very close to zero through that strategy. I can't see the benefit. I was trying to create the benefit then, and I thought about it, and as I'm thinking about it, it's like changing. So I was like, okay, hang on. If the Ethereum side is just purely dropping like a stone, for whatever reason, people are trying to move over, what would be the benefit? You'd move your value, so say it was like 3, say they're parity, you take your value out, that Ethereum goes to like near zero, very low. So even if you have it LP pool, you're going to be holding more of the Ethereum, which may or may not be beneficial because it's really low. You can lock it away, you get more of this stuff. But I guess if your plan was to move everything over, which it could be, you'd be just holding more and more of it. It'd be feeding yourself, locking it away, feeding yourself, and then you'd be moving that energy over to Pulsechain through the bridge. Once it hits the bridge, you'd be buying, pushing the price up against yourself, just slightly, in an efficient way though, because Pulsechain is a lot faster. Maybe you get so say it's 3 on both sides, one goes to 0. Maybe you get a bit under, maybe you get a bit over, hard to gauge, depending on numbers, etc., depending on other players, because this is in the theory where you're just the one person by yourself. So imagine if this is just me, and there's no one else in this system, this is what I could do. You could be like, dump, couple moves here, couple moves there, and then you'd be like, oh, okay, so I did all of this, and I'm now holding basically the same amount on the other chain, which is faster, better to transact. But then you might revert back, because if it's a large bag, what was more beneficial in regards to T-share? Because that would then come into it. You could then do the same on the Pulsechain side. You would see if you're holding a bag at LP, and you're seeing, I'm trying to envision this in my mind. So if you're having Ethereum Hex pooled with native Hex, PulseX Hex, and you're seeing that price increase, oh my god, this is hurting my mind. You would then see, as the economic energy hits the bridge goes in, and this is the assumption you're actually just purely purchasing Hex, you would then have PHEX, PulseX, as the native Hex, and the price would be going up. And as that price goes up, you're holding more EHEX. That's so confusing when you say it like that. Oh my god. So, and then it's like, well, hang on, what was the point of that? You would then have the price of the Pulse Hex on Pulsechain. It would be higher, maybe over, maybe under what it was on Ethereum. Mind you, fees are cheaper. Depends on T-shares. You might have more, so you maybe get some more benefit here and there. But in that, I guess, theory, it would almost be maybe beneficial to be going to where it treats you better. But then what if it turns around and all of a sudden T-shares are far more favorable on the Ethereum side? Then you got to move out, and then you'll be paying the fees along the way, which would suck, because that's why Pulsechain was created. So you'd be copping fees, but it may not affect too much, because if you're really large, I'm talking about really large, and if you're the only person, you could see it happening, but I'm not sure if there would be much of a benefit. But all along the way, though, assuming you're burning it to mint it later, and then when you burn it, you're getting these T shares. Depending on, you'd have to do some kind of complex calculations, which could almost be unknown, because then you could be playing this game with someone else. Because if it's by yourself, maybe it's calculatable. If it's with other people, maybe other entrants are doing the exact same thing, and it's just cancelling each other out. And you're playing this big game of it's like playing that game when the music stops and you take the chair out. Imagine playing that game and there's more than enough chairs for everyone. So why are we playing this game again? But yeah, that's probably the more deeper thoughts I'm having. I need to revise that in my mind just briefly. So simply, if you're holding something going up in value on whatever chain and you're in an LP pool, you then have less of it, and you get left with the thing that's worth less. You get more of that one. But then if you got more of that one, then you pull your liquidity. Say you're on Pulsechain, right? Price is going up, you're bridging everything in, you got your new Pulse, which is native to Pulsechain, and you got to lock it away because you're chasing T-shares. And the LPs that you're currently holding, you would then have, say it goes to 0 on the Pulse side chain, on the Pulse Hex, you would then have all your bag then in EHEX. And what use is that to you? Because it's bridged and the price is worth next to nothing on the Ethereum chain, you then you send it over there you send it, cop the fee, send it over there to have more of it, and then what are you going to be doing over there with it? I guess you're locking it away, which would be cool if you laddered it in a certain way in which you decide to then move your economic energy from, you know what I'm saying? So it'd be like a rhythm. Could be done. But again, this is market participants. A lot of things would be moving. Oh man, I could see in the future like some AI bot just coming in and calculating how to do that profitably. But at the moment, I'm not sure it can be done. But anyway, so that's way off topic. Basically, what is there anyone? Sorry, chat, if you had to listen to that. And the replay, if you had to listen to that. That was I could draw it out. Maybe it makes sense. But it would be absolutely insane either way. It would almost be like a game. All the way you'd be on both chains, because you're not getting a copy anymore. You got to decide which is which. You'd be like, okay, which is more expensive, which is more profitable, less any gas fees. If gas is like insane on one chain, it's just not worth it. But if you're an extremely large player, it could be worth it. But then it's like, well, if it's on parity and your decision is purely based on the fee, you might go to the fee, but then do you want like on one chain for it to be worth nothing? Because it's like, well, hang on, do you really want to destroy your own like bags? I'm not sure. It's very interesting. But then there's the argument. I can see the argument for the one argument I can't see. The one argument it's basically ruled out. I think at this point in time, unless someone's absolutely insane, is basically killing the Pulse chain side. It would make no sense because you'd just be copying all the fees. Say it was worth 3 cents each, and then you decide to bridge all your economic away from the bridge, away from Pulsechain onto Ethereum, and have everything sitting there. You've just defeated the purpose of Pulsechain completely. So that I can't see happening. It's what I'm saying. I could see the argument for taking all of the hex off of Ethereum onto Pulsechain, but then, like I said, if you're providing liquidity for hex and hex, you've lost your incentive, because if there is no where is it? There's no. Had we have seen an incentive token payout for hex and hex, that may have been taken up a lot, and lots of people may have done that, and that might have brought about the it may have brought about the incentive to create that bridge. Now, currently, we're seeing an incentive to lock away PulseX and Pulsechain, both native to Pulsechain, and then we're seeing the incentive to bring over, economic stables from Ethereum into Pulsechain, being in the form of DAI, USDC, USDT. We're seeing the incentive to pull, pull wrapped Ethereum with wrapped Pulse. And we are seeing Hex from Ethereum, but we're seeing it paired with wrapped Pulse as opposed to paired with Hex. So, based on that, maybe, just maybe, we're more looking at along the lines of Hex at parity. We're more looking along the lines, how would you calculate it? If it was at parity and T-shares were at parity, the only reason you discount the Hex on Ethereum would be knowing that gas fees are either already bad to end state or they'll be increasing. Now, we could say the same with Pulsechain, however, it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more efficient. So that's less of a problem, less of a calculation. So say you're taking a small chunk, a large chunk of the Ethereum side, and then a smaller chunk of the Pulsechain side. I'm not sure how you'd split it. I'm trying to think of a number off the top of my head right now. I don't want to say 75-25 because to me that would be cheap Hex on one side, and I'm not sure that's, with the large number I'm talking about. 50-50, I can't see it as much. I can see something, 55-45 maybe. Floating between that and 50-50, maybe 60-40 at extreme amounts, it's hard to say. But if you think along that lines, but even 60-40 is very extreme because a fee's not that much. Since when is a fee taking 20% of your bag? Unless it's if it's a tiny stake, yeah, it might be more than the bag. But if it's if it's a fucking huge stake, I don't think it's taking 20% of your bag. Alright, I think I killed this stream pretty effectively. Oh shit. If anyone heard that, and made sense of it, let me know what you think, because I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm not sure anyone's going to hear it. Now, in closing, in closing, I do wonder how people are going to play this. And all in all, it is very exciting times because no matter which way you look at it, you're not really losing at this point, I don't think. And I didn't even cover the possibility that one chain just goes absolutely insane because all this economic energy comes in and floods in, and boom, we get the $100 Hex, on Pulsechain. And then we see some parity play, then it pulls it back down to 50-50 on the chain. It pulls it back up because Pulsechain starts ripping, PulseX starts ripping. Incentive token as a function of them start ripping, well, not as a function, but incentive token maybe performs okay. People are creating I'm not sure if, I keep thinking in my mind, I might hold the LP, right, for the incentive token LP, but I'm thinking, hang on, wait, incentive token, what does the word incentive mean? Let's do some Jordan Maxwell type shit here. If you do incentive, at the moment I'm being incentivized to LP these tokens, but yeah, maybe we don't see an LP. See, I have all these thoughts in mind. So, you could pair this, but what if it doesn't come? What if this is it? What if this is the incentive? Shit, I'll be happy with that. And the amount of incentive tokens is relatively low, so maybe it just increases, and people who were doing the incentive, right, gets incentivized. Who knows? Alright, so yeah, I'm happy with that analysis. Wasn't very clear, but I know what I said. Alright, I can visualize that in my mind. Now, as I sit here and try to think about ways to fuck that system, I can't really see any. Like I said, I can't see E hex going to absolute zero. It makes no sense. I can't see P hex going to absolute zero or close to. It makes no sense. But nor does reducing E hex to zero. I mean, I can see the benefit, but then once you play it all out in your mind, what is the benefit you're actually getting? It's almost incentive. If there was incentive token for hex and hex on PulseX side, it could it's increased from like 0% to 1% basically, that it could happen because people might do it just purely to chase the incentive token, and knowing how much hex some people hold, you know, it could, without meaning to, take place, you know? But I think once we see this bridge, 32.3%. Okay, so 20 million's come in. And whether or not people, I wonder what people are doing, you know? What it is they are doing. Maybe they're flocking into Pulsechain. See, stables are still holding relative. I think Tether was doing some weird stuff though. Yeah, Tether's still out. So, hang on. Brain not working here. Wait, with one die, I can buy 0.65 USDT. So 1 USDT equals 1.5 die. That makes no sense. So 1 die. Hang on. Oh my god, why is that hurting my brain so much? But yeah, I'm pretty certain there's an opportunity. If only the bridge would allow me to go in and take advantage of that. Oh my god. But hang on. There's less of an opportunity because I'm just noticing here Tether for some reason is being priced at 0.97 per 0.59, and so somewhere the ratio is out slightly. I'm not sure how that's doing that. As note, see, it's like 98. Yeah, there you go. Less of an opportunity still exists, but there we go. So it's parity now. So it's a ratio. See, double mindfuck. Ratio trading on top of, be careful, ratio trading on top of price value. Where's the price being pulled from? I would have said from looking at this, but maybe there's something else. Interesting. Can't be right. Anyway, I'll briefly cover some other stuff. My stream's still alive. Dude, I kill this stream so hard. No one can keep up with my my analysis. Now, you could say because I'm wrong, but you could also say closing before my stream gets killed from the YouTube gods, which thanks to them, this stream is at risk. I'll put some timestamps on this for everyone who wants to go back and check. I'll do it myself for myself. So like I said, Pulsechain could well be the Jekyll Island, digital Jekyll Island of cryptocurrency, because we are seeing, I can't believe this one for now, because we are seeing a new system literally being created, and it's not because a whole group of shady, powerful individuals got together and organized all this, but rather it just happened. It's been released. It's code. I trust code more than man. Mind you, man can control the code, but in terms of the tokens and that code, I'd be able to move it, not actually immutable code. But yeah, like I said, do you trust the current system? Not ripping too hard into it. I can't see a replacement anytime soon, but I can, like I said, the digital asset system, digital realm, cryptocurrencies, tokens, all this stuff that is coming, is being built, and I like to think it's going to be replace the existing system. I don't think it will, because I think the existing system still has a place to, it still has a role to play, is what I'm saying. Maybe some other group of nations get together and create something, I'm not sure, but I don't think that's going to be anytime soon. Back to what I'm saying, I don't trust man as much because we designed the system. Man designed the system. Some viewers, thank you for tuning in. You missed my ramblings on extremely complex, vague analysis. I should draw it up, but I don't think I'll have the time to. I might. How hex may play out in terms of two different chains, etc., etc., and arguments for why XYZ may occur. Again, I have to go back. I'll put some timestamps in if anyone wants to check it out. It may be worth listening to, but it's pretty. You have to sort of use your psychic abilities to understand what exactly I'm saying. Now, man created the Federal Reserve, right? And I have little trust. Well, I don't have any trust. I have less trust in the Federal Reserve System because there's some issues that I can't speak about. And some banks, some economic issues, some rates, things like that. Wonderful stuff. Wish I could tell you guys, but just can't. Sorry. Now, with man, Federal Reserve, the banking reserve requirements, we can talk about this, were reduced to 0. And did you know? I bet you didn't. But you probably did. But SVB, the bank that failed for various reasons, like who was overseeing all this stuff. Anyway, the SVB executives and directors cashed out $84 million worth of stock over the past 2 years, according to Smart Insider. The sales have sparked criticism over the SVB's management. So this is again man. This is what man does. They stuff the system. They wreck the system. They take profits out of the system for profits because they're men. They're mere mortals. They're not immutable like code. That's bad because that's like implying that AI is like God, which is not. Man controls God. Man controls code. Oh my God! Sorry, people. I'm going off insane rants here. Now, this is extremely, extremely concerning. Is it concerning or is it wonderful? I'll let you decide, because here's how it is. The CBDC, if it's rolled out, will be in direct competition, I don't know what you call it, but cash and cryptocurrency cannot coexist with a central bank digital currency. Now, this is for many reasons. How do I put this long story short? CBDCs allow for a universal basic income. Not a good universal basic income. A universal basic income whereby you're under control. Now, this I think is bad, is the best way I can put this. Now, do your own research again. But what is coming out while we're all distracted is here in Australia. Australia has marked its first foreign exchange transaction using a central bank digital currency as eAUD pilot continues. Now, Ethereum layer 2 blockchain, right? They used a layer 2 to conduct the central bank digital currency. Now, why is this a concern? I'll get into that just in a minute if you will bear with me. We have a pilot stage going on right now with a group you can look up. I did a video about it previously. I would have to go back and find it if YouTube hasn't removed it and all the links, but I've got a copy in Rumble, so luckily Rumble is better than YouTube. Now, the group is basically creating a pilot stage for various types of ways to use a central bank digital currency. So in this instance, it is for foreign exchange transactions. Maybe there's another instance whereby you track, say, shipping of goods. You create a blockchain purely to keep track of your cargo. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. Now that would be separate from a central bank digital currency that is used for foreign exchange, like in this article. Now I actually need to check if you guys can see this. I think you can. My stream's a little bit behind, but yeah. Ethereum layer 2 blockchain, right? And they used, wait for it, ZK rollup technology. Now, you could say this is wonderful, this is technology, this is mainstream adoption. What addresses did they use? Did they use, say, a smart wallet? Did they use, say, a MetaMask wallet? Did they generate their own addresses from seeds? Makes you wonder, right? Could it be, not a Trojan horse, but could it be that Ethereum layer 2 blockchains are used for central bank digital currencies, and this is a way to regulate cryptocurrency into non-existence? It's kind of scary when you think about it. I'll leave it there because I don't want to give them any ideas. But as we've seen with Tornado Cash, now they probably have way more ideas than me and are way more capable because there's more of them at the moment in positions of power, even though... Anyway. So with Tornado Cash, they were able to, blacklist addresses. They weren't able to stop the code, but they could blacklist addresses. Imagine if everyone's addresses become put on some sort of database, and if you use, say, something that they look favorable upon later on down the road, maybe that's DeFi, who knows at this point, maybe that gets blacklisted. Now that's unimaginable, horrible, but the fact that they actually didn't use their own chain, they went to Ethereum, and they used the layer 2, they used ZK rollup. That is a concern, because that is connecting CBDCs with current existing blockchain technology, which would, when you think about it logically, once something like the FedNow system is rolled out and they're able to link all the banking internal payments together and check it on the ledger, make sure it's safe, verify it, do the normal processes, but incorporate it onto a blockchain which is cheaper, then they can roll it out to the people. If Australia is going down the route of testing Ethereum and they decide to use Ethereum, which would be wonderful for Ethereum initially, would it not make a requirement mandatory that Ethereum becomes heavily regulated on how to access it? And if you do not access it through your little app on your little phone with your ID, with your digital identity, with your central bank digital currency, then you might not be accessing it through the correct means. And therefore, you would have to be regulated. And wait for it, just wait for it, maybe they could stop your access. So remember, Infura already connects you to a server in which they track and trace you. So it's not that far off. It sounds like conspiratorial. I hate to end the stream on that particular note, but this is the thing that the entire crypto space is coming up against, even though we're not doing anything wrong. Everything's done by the book, But then we get all this uncertainty, all this regulation talk. And it's not even regulation talk. You have to really think about what does a central bank digital currency run on Ethereum actually mean for regulation? Do you think a nation state is going to allow individuals to create their own magic internet money on the same chain that their CBDC exists upon? They're going to try and reach out and take away the life from anything else on that chain that is not theirs. This is why I say cryptocurrency and cash cannot coexist with a central bank digital currency. Now, I hope it's just a maybe they clone the technology themselves and have their own private Ethereum network, and that is how they use their central bank digital currency, and it's not to control the masses like I explained just previously. I hope that's what it is, and the ultimate goal isn't command and control over all of us. I really do. But if it is, then I would, if I'm able to, vote against that, and where possible push back peacefully, politically, legally, and lawfully. I don't like the idea that a nation state could come in and potentially take over a blockchain and then regulate the absolute life out of it. I really don't like that idea. Free speech signing out once again. I don't think I said anything that would give me a YouTube strike. Thanks, YouTube. Thank you so much. But yeah. Time for some timestamps.